That was probably one of the wildest press briefings I've ever seen from the Oval Office. Mamdani joined Trump, and I am almost speechless from what I saw there. I watched it yesterday. Mike, I know you just saw it now, so it's fresh in your mind. What do you think? What the hell happened there? What went down?
I mean, it's definitely a very interesting meeting, and I'm curious. I don't know, but I'm curious if a mayoral candidate has ever stepped into the White House like that. So I don't know if it's like a historic thing or not, but it was extremely refreshing. That's for sure. And it made me feel strange because within 24 hours, I find myself agreeing with not only MTG but also Trump, and I'm like, dude, what's going on here? So, um, if I had to put it in one word, I would say hope. It makes me very hopeful for what's coming, but I'm a skeptic, so I'll believe it when I see it. I don't want to get all in on it just yet, but it was a great meeting, man. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time a mayoral elect ever went to the White House for that caliber of a meeting. From what I understand, I think Zoran initiated it. I think he called up Trump or called up somebody and like he wanted to have the meeting. So that shows like, initiative on his part and he's not afraid to like step in that world in that realm, which is I think Trump was probably impressed by that. I think that's probably one reason that set the tone of that meeting. I think Trump was like, wow, this guy wants to come meet me. He's already like flattered, right off the bat from just the fact that he wanted to come. And I wonder what the actual behind closed door meeting was because we didn't get to see or hear that, but we saw the kind of the immediate after effect of that. And Trump was just all praises, all glowing. He like protected Mamdani from some of the reporters, like, "Hey, you don't need to answer that," or "Oh no, it's fine," or like, "No, he doesn't think that of me," or "No, it's fine." Like, I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like, just a couple of weeks ago, he was calling this man like an evil communist that should never hold a position of power in America, and now he's like praising him as like this great political figure and maybe the face of the Democrat Party and like what happened, like what's your thesis on like what the hell just went down? Do you think Trump saw the sweeping victory of the whole election at large with the blue tsunami that we just had and he's like, okay, I better not like step on any toes there? Do you think he was like personally charmed by Mamdani? Do you think he respects him for like, because Mamdani is a good speaker. He's a very articulate, intelligent speaker, and you can tell he's very good at like speaking to the issues of the voters, which he was like very focused on that whole meeting. Do you think Trump is like? Do you think Trump is like intimidated by him? Do you think he's like impressed by him? Either way, it seemed like he got charmed.
Yeah, I don't think Trump is necessarily intimidated by Mamdani. If he's intimidated by anything, I would say it's the blue wave and the backing that Mamdani has. But I don't think he's intimidated by Zoran particularly, like on a personal level. I think he made that very clear going into the campaign. Like, even if you win, I'm going to do everything I can to like screw over your term. So I don't think he's stressing it.
Yeah, but here's what I'd say about that. Like 2 weeks ago, he's like, if you become mayor, we're gonna withdraw all funding from New York. He becomes the mayor elect, comes visits him in his house, and then he's like, I can't wait to work together with him to make New York great. It's
Right,
like,
right, right. But my point is that I don't think that's through intimidation. I think he was charmed. Like the charming thing, definitely. I don't think he's intimidated though. And as far as the phone call goes, where you mentioned, well, Mamdani is the one who set this up. I would say, of course, there's no way Trump is going to call him. No way. So, and I don't know if this is related. I doubt it is. I personally believe that this is just Zoran, you know, getting ahead of the train, so to speak, and like trying to make this thing work. But if you recall when there's all that controversy over Charlie Kirk being assassinated and the response Trump had to that, whereas compared to the assassination of I think it was in Minnesota, the senators from Minnesota that were assassinated politically, and how there was no response there, no flags at half mast, and nothing. When asked about that, Trump said, "Well, the governor, he didn't even call me," and so that's something where, at least to me, it signals Trump's not going to call you. Trump doesn't care about you. Trump has his world and his agenda, and he's going to move on it. But if you come to him, especially if you come to him like in a graceful or flattering way, then he'll give you a seat at the table. It's, if anything, it'd be like his handlers that might not. But and that is another interesting point. Well, I haven't seen it, but I had a friend mention to me that Steve Bannon apparently came out with high praise of Mamdani very shortly before Trump sort of did this 180. So it's possible that Bannon was influenced, and then that influence spread from Bannon to Trump. Um,
Another person I saw immediately like flip on Mamdani was Bill Ackman, the billionaire that actually funded his opposition. He
yeah, who
was
said
funding
like
Cuomo.
I'm gonna leave, and now he's like I'm gonna stay, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we can work together." Like, I think the night that he won, he tweeted that out. It's like, dude, you just dropped like $1 million to try to keep him from power, and now you're like, "Let's work together." Like, what the hell is this?
Right. That's one of the things that's so ridiculous about that entire campaign is that the billionaires who were so resistant to this idea of raising the tax just to match what New Jersey has, it's nothing crazy. And they spent more trying to get him out than to get him. Sorry, they spent more trying to get him out than they would have in the taxes if he
Yeah,
wins.
and Mamdani mentioned that a few times. I don't know if he mentioned it during the campaign. I think he might have, but he definitely did in a couple of local news interviews that he did. He's like, "Yo, these guys are funding Cuomo more than I would tax them." I thought that was a fantastic line. Like,
It's a perfect line because it's true. It's a fact. Like statistically, mathematically, whatever, economically, whatever terms you want to use, 1 plus 1 equals 2 here. And I think that is my favorite thing about Mamdani as a whole. What I love about him is his focus. He puts the issues before any and all distractions. There was a number of questions in there that were, they did a lot of talking about Ukraine and whatnot, but that was mostly for Trump. But there were definitely some questions that were thrown at Mamdani that were specifically to distract from the issues. Like they're there talking about how to make New York affordable, how to make it livable, how to make it great. But there were questions about like Netanyahu being arrested. Are you the tip of the spear for the Democratic Party? Do you condemn previous Democratic policies that have led New York City astray? Do you condemn socialism? Or there was a thing about condemning socialism. How do you feel about that? Things like that. So all of that has definitely played a role. Or not played a role, excuse me. All of that has definitely been something that has been brought up to distract from the issues, but each and every time Mamdani turns it around and stays laser focused. And I think that is not only refreshing to just see in a politician, because a lot of politicians will avoid questions and they'll still assert the agenda, but he does it in a way that I think is different from others because it's clear that he's not dodging the question. He's saying, I'm talking about this, you're talking about that. I'm talking about this, not that. We could talk about that later, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this, and I want to talk about this, and we're only going to talk about this. And that's a great thing to see from a leader, and we need more of it.
yeah, I think that's really unique. Like, we haven't seen that at least in a while. It feels like in this whole political
I
realm
can't
that
think
we're
of it in my
experiencing.
lifetime.
Yeah. So hopefully it's not just rhetoric. Hopefully it's not just he's good at staying focused on the conversation. Hopefully, obviously, that turns into action. But this seems like a good prerequisite for that. If he is still saying the things that he was saying on the campaign trail now that he's been elected, that's a very good sign. Because usually what happens with politicians, as we know, is once they win that election, it's like the campaign goes out the window. Their talking points disappear, and they turn into a corporate owned politician that doesn't do shit. Like hearing this now from Mamdani after he's won, meeting with Trump, is a really hopeful sign. I'm with you on the hope thing. I don't want to get too much hope and get disappointed again, but I am definitely excited about him being the mayor, and I definitely want to see him deliver. And I hope he does succeed. And it's going to be really interesting to see how his relationship with Trump evolves over time. I mean, we've still got 3 years of the Trump administration or more, but hopefully not. We don't get to that point. And it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic changes because, one thing I've heard from other people talking about this is this friendliness between the two is probably not going to last. Trump is just going to do some other awful thing, tomorrow or next week, and Mamdani's going to be kind of confronted by it, and he's going to have to denounce it because otherwise he looks like he's defending Trump. So probably their relationship is going to have a rift at some point, but we'll see. It's really interesting to keep an eye on these two.
Well, one thing I would definitely want to say on that is I think there was opportunity for, like, this is what also gives me hope on that front, is there was definitely opportunity for that in this meeting. Um, a great example is Trump was asked, "Do you believe you're standing or you have a jihadist standing next to you?" Because one of your Republican colleagues has called him a jihadist in her campaigns and blah blah blah, and he said, "No, I don't think so." And then he followed it up by saying, "Sometimes you say things in a campaign," which speaks to the way politics has become, and maybe a bit in part of how it's always been. But there's a thing that has definitely shifted, at least in my lifetime. Again, maybe it's always been a thing, but like, um, there's just blatant, full blown dishonesty, and it's over the top, and it's unapologetic. Um, and that's something that I'm hoping we can steer away from because that's what's destroying us. Is we get so tribal and we say, okay, well, he's a socialist, he's a jihadist. I want nothing to do with him. And it's like, but is he even a jihadist? You haven't even heard the man. So this is an area where I am hopeful, but it does make me very skeptical of how the relationship will continue. But the one thing that I will say is that not only did Trump, I think Trump would cave before Mamdani because Mamdani called out Trump during his campaign, and when asked about him being a fascist and things like that, now he still stood on the same points. He didn't waver. He didn't downplay. He didn't do anything. He stayed on message.
Dude, you know what? When that fascist question came up, I wonder what Mamdani would have said if Trump would have let him speak. Because maybe now I'm thinking, now that you're recalling that, incident, maybe Trump was scared of the answer that Mamdani was going to give because Mamdani is so good at speaking. He might have I think Trump was probably afraid that Mamdani would use that opportunity to yeah, I did say it because of these things that have been going on, but it's been great to get to know the president and maybe we can work together, but I still believe, in these things. That could have been like a cordial answer, but also not backing down from the fact that, yeah, I called him a fascist because he's deploying ICE into all the cities. He's deploying the National Guard. He doesn't give a shit. Like I don't know. He probably wouldn't have brought up January 6th or anything like that, but
He
still
might
just to
have, but
hit the
either way,
points,
yeah,
maybe. But I'm very curious to know what Mamdani would have said, and I think that's why Trump stopped it.
I fully agree. That's definitely like that was the first thing that I heard from this meeting. I saw that one clip, and a lot of people's big takeaway was that Trump just said, "Oh yeah, I don't mind if you call me a fascist." And don't get me wrong, that is alarming, but I think there is some plausible deniability or like middle ground to be said of like, look, he's just trying to keep the thing brief. Like for brevity's sake, just say yes. Like we don't need to go into this. You said it, you think it, I know you think it, everybody knows you think it. Let's just move on. So there is that. But I personally think there is also a recognition of like if this man speaks, people listen. And if I have to sit here while he lists out all the things that I've done, like I think Mamdani's respectful. I don't think he's just going to talk shit to Trump, but I think he's capable of also being very concise. So I don't think he would go on like a big rant or a tirade. I think he would say, "Look, yes, I think so, and let me explain briefly why." But like we're trying to focus on. I'm almost certain they would all come back around to New York again, and so even though he would still say, yes, I do think he is a fascist, and here's why. I think he would say, but we can find middle ground, and we're capable of working together, or something. I mean, I don't know. He didn't say it.
You know what? I think a great answer would be something like, yes, I did call him a fascist, and here's why. And he lists like the ICE stuff, the National Guard. And then he's like, but you know what? We're also human beings, and I want to work together to like make the New York a better place for everybody. We might differ on ideology, but that's okay. You know, this is America, and like we can all work together no matter our beliefs. So he's basically like acknowledging, yes, effing fascist, but also, but this is America. We welcome different ideologies. Let's work for the people of New York. I'm so focused on their affordability, them having, you know, wages and bus rides and childcare and all that stuff. Like, dude, that's probably why Trump was like, shh, shh, I don't want to hear that, because that's a damn good answer.
Right, right, right. And to be completely honest, like I don't know if we should be welcoming fascist ideas, but I understand what you're saying for sure. And I think a great soundbite or whatever that came from this is a question that was asked to Mamdani after Trump was going on about how great America, or excuse me, how great New York was, and how he's hopeful that New York will be great again, and all these things. The question that was asked was, Trump loves New York City. Does New York City love Trump? And instead of making it about Trump and like his politics and his policies and all these other things that he could talk about, similar to the fascist thing, he said New York City loves affordability, and we have middle ground on affordability. We want to make this happen. And it immediately makes it clear, like, look, there's things that we could both talk about each other. You know, he could talk about how I'm a socialist and blah blah blah, and I could talk about how he's a fascist, blah blah blah. But there's middle ground. We both want these things, and let's focus on those things. And if we do those things, it helps everybody. Not it, you know, it doesn't matter if you're left, right, rich, poor, whatever. It helps everybody, and it's not condemning. It's not condoning. It's simply working together. And on a if you zoom out, I think this is something that I've always been a huge advocate for, especially since Jon Stewart's rally to restore sanity in like what was that, 2010, 2011 or something. You know, that's 15 years ago, and Jon Stewart made the same point of, you know, Americans work together every damn day. We shove a million people through a tunnel, and it goes through merging. You first, then me. You first, then me. Oh, is that a Bush bumper sticker? That's okay. You first, then me. Oh, is that like a, you know, Black Lives Matter thing? It's fine. You first, then me. And the guy who cuts up ahead, he's not given a job and a talking point, you know, or excuse me, becomes like a talking pundit on the news. That guy's an asshole, and he's scorned and shamed for that kind of behavior. So this idea of, hey, we have these differences, but we can work together and do great things. That's what Americans do every day in their jobs. You know, unless maybe you work for like a political organization, then there's always, and even within political organizations, you're going to have differing views and whatnot, but people still work together. So if we can do it, our leaders should be able to do it. And I think this is the first example in a long time where we've seen an attempt, like a very public attempt, especially one done at the top level with the president. Because I'll be honest, under Biden, like I thought Biden's policies were for the most part like pretty good for everybody kind of thing, but I can't think of, I mean, I wasn't paying super close attention in a lot of cases, but like I can't think of a moment where he met with like a prominent Republican and talked about, hey, this Republican's got great ideas. I can't name that.
Yeah. two more points on the meeting. I think there was one element of Trump kind of riding the wave of Mamdani's victory. Um, there was a moment, I forgot what it was. Oh, he mentioned a lot of Mamdani voters were Trump supporters, and he was very happy to like bring that up. And I remember that's one of the moments he was like smiling and looking at Mamdani. So I think there is an element of that of Trump basically trying to cash in on all the New Yorkers that did vote for Mamdani, like sweeping election, like not even close. And also, let us not forget that yesterday, the day before this meeting, Trump was calling for Democrats to be hanged. So, like, what, like, this is a very bipolar, clownish political realm that we're witnessing before our eyes. And a lot of what we saw in this meeting was like kind of warmth. Like these two guys look like they get along. They look like they're friends. They look like they can work together. But when you put it on the backdrop of like what just transpired the day before, it's like what kind of like a funny house political environment do we really exist in, where like the same members of Mamdani's party were being threatened with hanging? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. It definitely illustrates the weird reality that we are living in, this alternate universe. Um, but I would say that it's mostly a positive thing in the sense that, yes, reality is warping and distorted and it's strange. And don't get me wrong, what was said before was horrible and what's said now is good. So that doesn't mean that it's all going to be good going forward. Clearly not. But I think it gives breath to this idea that it's possible to break through this reality and for because Mamdani's a populist and Trump is a populist, and so whether you agree with them or hate them, there's plenty of middle ground. And I think as long as we have this return to bipartisanship, which has, as Marjorie Taylor Greene brought up earlier, there's been total. I forget the exact term that she used, but it was something along the lines of like both sides have been working against the American people and like dividing us further and further. I think she called it like the political industrial complex or something like that. Um, so I think this is a step towards mending that and bringing us together instead of apart. And I really don't like Trump. I really hate his policies, but for what it's worth, credit where it's due. If he can actually unite us and bring us together, this is the first time that we've ever seen Trump speak to unity or bringing us together. Because not only was he talking about executing Democrats, but he was also posting AI videos of him shitting all over protesters. And those protesters represent millions of Americans in every single state. So I think this is definitely something that is good. It's hopeful. I'm highly skeptical, and I want to talk about that. But before I do, like, please, anything.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that AI video that Trump shared. And I think that was also in New York. It was supposed to be New York where he was like flying through and like shitting on everyone. So that's also like another layer of, yeah, it looked like Times Square kind of. And the other theory that I've heard is like, was Trump on drugs?
I have not heard that one.
We do know that Trump is like going through some type of medical, he's had like his hand, he's got like those big ankles, he's had his, there's lots of theories on like he's wearing some like monitoring device. I don't know if you've seen any of that,
I
but
have not seen that.
he just had like an MRI. Like maybe these are all routine things, but Trump is obviously going through like medical screening and stuff, and he's keeping it kind of hush hush. Um, so there is like that, those kinds of questions. So the question of like, was he on maybe like some drug like painkillers or something, and he just like took an extra dose that day? Because I don't think he's ever smiled that much meeting with anyone in the Oval Office ever that I can remember, and he was like all smile, like he was looking at Mamdani like his first love. I don't know if you saw that picture. One of those pictures was like he's looking at Mamdani like, wow, I'm like infatuated. And to like, no one's ever seen Trump smile that much before. So that was, I don't know. It's something to consider. Maybe all these things are what's going on.
Well, I don't think any drugs were involved or anything like that. If they were, whoever gave them to him, yo, keep that up. We need to make this person like give them a promotion.
That's the right dose.
So right, you got it calibrated. Keep that. Maybe they've been. Maybe this hand motion I'm making is. Who knows what kind of medication they've been doing, but um, I don't buy that though. I think it's just like there's a couple of things that I think are at play here. Number one, they're both populists. They're both for the people. Whether or not they actually follow through on that, who knows? But they both claim to be for the people, and they both want like Trump wants America first. Mamdani definitely wants New York first. That's without question. So there's a lot of overlap there, as mentioned by the voter overlap. The I think another thing that's also important to keep in mind is Trump's not necessarily a Republican in the traditional sense. When he started in politics, he started as a Democrat, and he's also generally been like pro choice. He was pro gay marriage and all these other things. So he's not always been like this hardcore Republican thing. I think he just went that way because that's the way that would get him in. And he's very clearly willing to say anything and do anything as long as it benefits him personally.
100%. He was a Democrat for like 10 years at least. He he was like friends with the Clintons for a long time. He was never historically a religious person at all, and all of a sudden he's like quoting Bible verses or trying to, like, when he's able, when he remembers. So I think he definitely saw an opportunity to become president. I think that was his goal from a long time ago, and he knew that the Republican Party was the vehicle to do that. I think he saw the constituents of that party being like, I can win over these people, and when I say win, I mean like manipulate. I can lie to them and they're going to eat it up. And I think that's exactly what he did, and it worked.
I mean, that was definitely evidenced by the lock her up chant. When he started lock her up, that was a pivotal moment, or not necessarily a pivotal moment, but like a pillar in his campaign. That was one of the things that he campaigned on, and he campaigned hard. And there's all kinds of merch and whatever. I think he even sold merch, maybe, about it. But after he was elected, I still remember he was holding rallies even after winning, just because he likes rallies. And at one of the rallies, they started lock her up, and he said, hey guys, come on, we won. We just said that to win, and now that we've won, we don't really need to do this." And if I was a Trump supporter and I believed lock her up, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? You're already selling me out? Like, we just gave you the vote, but somehow for a lot of them, it just, yeah, you know what? I guess you're right. We should take the high road. And it's like, but he just led you down the low road. Like, so, so in other words, this is all sort of to come back and say, like, he will definitely say and do anything. And this is where I get very skeptical of Mamdani, because politicians lie. He's got a great smile, but I don't trust it. It can feel artificial at times. It can feel forced. And even if his rhetoric and his speeches and talking points and whatnot are exactly on message, exactly on point, but talk is talk. We have to see what the action is, and I think that's where it'll be very interesting to see what comes. I'll believe it when I see it, and hopefully, it sounds like they're willing to work together. Because my biggest fear with Mamdani was like Trump's going to screw it up. Trump's going to stand in the way. Trump's going to take over the city. He's going to intimidate people. And at least at the moment, it sounds like Trump is willing to say, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." And in fact, when they met, he even specifically said, "If we didn't get along, I'd cut off funding or make it difficult." So the fact that they got along in this meeting was pivotal, I think, for not only Mamdani but also New York, because the question is why did they get along so well? Is it that there truly is middle ground and Mamdani's able to influence Trump and say, look, man, I don't want to be your enemy. I'm not coming after you on a national level. I think you can be president. I'm not saying that you should be kicked out or arrested or whatever. I just want to see, um, I just want to see like what's good for New York. But the cynic in me, the paranoid, like, what if part of me automatically comes up with two giant potential red flags. And again, I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know. But I would say my concerns are like, A, what if this is a case of, look, man, we'll help you, but you got to get Letitia James and all these people coming after me to arrest me and put me in prison. You need to put that to an end. Um, so that's a possibility. And another possibility could be how he talked about, oh, I love that he's creating more housing. He wants to develop and make apartments and houses, and like, is it possible that there could be some level of bribery or something involved in there of like, look, if we develop, we'll use your companies or your contractors, your friends to do it. So you'll get cash out of this if you let me do what I want to do. And Trump's a sellout. We know this. So like those are my two big concerns, but that's pure speculation. It could easily not have happened at all. There could be no strings attached, but when's the last time we've had a politician actually promise that all these good things will come and then they came and there were no strings attached? So,
Well, one thing's for sure. We got 3 more years of Trump, and we're gonna be seeing a lot more of Mamdani. And well, I can't wait to see how this relationship evolves.